free market have, well, a free hand? How much should the government step in to control business practices, to control business models? What about demand and supply? How much is too much? That's the question that's being asked after we've seen somewhat of a confrontation between the Delhi Chief Minister and app-based cab services. Remember, surge pricing has now been banned in Karnataka permanently. It's been discontinued in Delhi during the odd-even season, and as we've been told, will not be allowed to be back. There will be no surge pricing in Delhi even after the end of the month. That's the end of April when the odd-even scheme, the Delhi Chief Minister's pet scheme, ends. So there are two states in India that are already saying no to surge pricing. Will the rest of India follow? And what does this mean for larger business practices in the country? That's what we're looking at today. The spotlight, of course, has been on Uber and Ola, two of our leading app-based cab platforms. We've extended an invitation to both to be on the program today, but they've told us that they'd rather skip this one and come up with a response in the midst of all this. They're, of course, trying to meet the Chief Minister to try and sort this out. But let me introduce a very special panel nonetheless. Joining me from Bangalore, Ravi Gururaj, founder and CEO at QuickPort. He's also the chairman of the NASSCOM Product Council. Rakesh Agarwal, director and CEO Magic Seva, with us, as is Kunal Lalani, president of the Association of Radio Taxis and founder Mega Cabs. Also with me, Arun Bharti, founder and CEO of Orahi, a mobile carpooling app, and Amadikshit Jugnu, city manager for New Delhi. Thanks all so much for taking our time to be with us today. Mr. Gururaj, first up to you. There are all those saying that something like surge pricing, something like dynamic pricing is key to business models of some companies that we are looking at. It's a global phenomenon. It's been practiced globally. Why should the government intervene? This is a free market. Just let the market decide. Where do you stand on this debate, sir?
Well, I'm always in favor of free markets, arriving at price discovery, coming at market clearing prices, in providing choice and convenience to consumers. So, I think we should step back a little bit and understand, for instance, what Ola and Uber have done to the Indian taxi market, for instance. The number of choices I have has gone up since they've arrived. The convenience has gone up. The cost, in most instances, has gone down. The congestion on the roads, potentially, if we have even more capacity, will get much better if people are able to use these kinds of services. And I think, finally, it's the capacity. The number of cars and options available has actually gone up since these services have arrived. The number of drivers who are willing to drive has gone up. I think that's all great. Now, I think today we're talking about, a market mechanism of discovering how to balance demand versus supply.
Sure.
And I think, we need to give freedom to models to exist that allow that to be determined by consumers primarily, by voting with their dollars, right, and their rupees. And that's, I think, what this whole business model is about.
Right, and that's, of course, going to be the center of this big debate. Who's going to decide? Is it going to be the consumer? Is it going to be the government that's going to step in? How much free market is okay? Kunal Lalani, come in at this stage. There is no denying that these app-based cab services have made life easier for just so many people in our cities. We now seem to be caught in the middle of this debate that, where, on one hand, the consumers, of course, greatly relieved. There are others who are sort of looking at the ease of doing business in India and saying, where are we going? What's going to happen and all of that. How do you see this as someone who's also operating a cab service?
See, firstly, we welcome such new concepts. So there's no reason for us to deny such concepts coming in, which actually mature the entire taxi market. The argument right now stands at that they should be firstly regulated like everybody else. And regulation does not happen only in India. Globally, taxi product is a regulated product. Besides that, what we say, once there's a regulation in place, there should be one rule for all.
Sure.
You cannot have two different rules, and that's the only argument we have against them. Secondly, as being a regulated product, there's always a maximum price fixed by the government. They must adhere to a maximum price. If that maximum price is known to the customer, then that keeps away the insecurity and the risk of the customer getting stranded with tomorrow a huge surge price. If these two things are addressed, I'm sure they are more than welcome to grow in the country.
Right. Mr. Agarwal, you're someone who sort of really got surge pricing to the front burner even before it became this big issue. You went to court protesting about it. Do you believe that it's now inevitable that it's going to happen all over India? Because how can only Karnataka and Delhi say no to surge pricing? Do you believe that it's now inevitable that it's going to be sort of history in the entire country? And do you believe that that's the way forward?
Well, Ola and Uber, the business models they have done wonders for the taxi industry. and we admire these companies and their business models for that reason. However, they are also creating barriers for the competition. They have deep pockets using the money that they receive from venture funds. They are creating barriers by incentivizing drivers to join them. For instance, every morning they send out SMS messages to their drivers, fleet of drivers, telling them, giving them minimum business guarantee of 10,000 rupees, 10,500 rupees. So that is the kind of money that other startups cannot throw away. So our issue is that so far as pricing is concerned and the government's intervention in demand and supply, the issue of pricing to bridge the gap between demand and supply, we are all for market mechanism.
Yeah, so, I think that break-even point will arrive. Everybody can't have endless pockets in terms of deep pockets and being able to just invest cash endlessly. I think what you need is you need to create a critical mass of drivers, you need to create the infrastructure, you need to change consumer preferences and behaviors. That's what's going on right now in this investment stage. And I think you will reach a point where there's an efficiency level that's reached that allows, and a capacity level that's reached that allows this to become a steady state profitable business as well, downstream.
Sure. Very quickly, Mr. Lalan, quickly.
I completely disagree with what Mr. Gurunath is saying. The fact is that you can do all this even if you have deep pockets. You're not allowed to sell below cost. The government or the country's laws do not permit it. Here the current condition is that if the taxi ride is worth 300 rupees, today it costs any of these companies more than 350 rupees to make sure that taxi ride happens. So which means 300 rupees is what the customer is paying and 350 bucks the company is funding.
Right.
Now this practice is illegal, unethical and not acceptable.
And on top of that, these,
and very quickly,
these app-based companies are paying 450 rupees per ride to the drivers. So the driver is finally getting 700 rupees, but the consumer is only spending 300 rupees. So where's that 400 rupees coming from?
So that's unethical practice. That's only to destroy the
and illegal
the competition.
Violation of Competition Act of 2002.
So then should we, Mr. Gururaj, would it be fair to say that it's... Sorry, let me just try and understand the arguments, because I know that we have very sort of clear and firm positions on both sides and we can go on with this. But would it be fair to sort of say, and I want to sort of ask all of you that we have the Competition Commission for this purpose. They can come in to ensure there's no monopoly. We're constantly told that there is example of what's happening, say, with airlines, it's happening with hotels. So why should this space be any different? I'll get you all to respond, but Mr. Gururaj quickly, and then I have to open it to the other panelists.
Yeah, I think, what you need to do is first and foremost expand capacity. A driver that's investing in a car that might be 7 to 10 lakhs or something, bringing it into the market, bringing a high quality vehicle onto the market, needs to have a monthly break even happen. Otherwise, they won't bring that capacity. Now, it also means that, you need to price at a level that is a steady state, a level that you might reach in 3 years' time for the consumer today to adopt. So that's that chicken and egg problem, right, that is there. First, the consumer expects a price that's reasonable. The driver needs to make an income that's reasonable, but you need to bring both to the market first. And so there's an investment required in the first few years to get that critical mass going. And I think that's what we're seeing. Once that critical mass is reached and steady state is reached, I think, you'll have a balance, natural balance.
Where do you stand on the argument that the smaller players, people with sort of not so deep pockets, are struggling to get that funding, struggling to sort of just take off, will be squeezed out of the ecosystem?
So, yes,
is that a fair fear?
So for small players, small startups, small innovators which are coming up, I'll say just focus on the values first, then don't go after the money, because when the money will be taken out, how will you survive? That is the biggest question.
Mr. Agarwal, come in. There is room for everyone. Why do we need to worry?
What we are against is giving incentives to drivers from your own pockets. And you can only do that when you have deep pockets. And as this gentleman from Bangalore just said, Mr. Gurunath, I believe.
Gururaj, yes.
Right. As he just said about the market maturing, it's not just the rights of Ola, Uber or big players who will innovate and who will help in the maturing of the market. We also need to play in the same market.
Absolutely. So, I don't think the argument is that it's only for the big guys. It's just that there is there room for everyone or not? Correct. Or will they be squeezed out? That seems to be the concern. In the midst of all this, something that we haven't really looked at is the effect on pollution, is the effect on environment. I'd like you to come in at this stage. There's, of course, so much focus on odd even, and somehow the odd even this time has been taken over by politics, been taken over by business and all of that. But do you believe that any of this, again, this morning I'm just looking at a press release by Ola that said that they're increasing the number of cabs back again on the road. So are we sort of getting caught in this vicious cycle, and is there going to be sort of
How
really
are they
any
doing it
real
without
impact on
research?
the
If they
ground?
couldn't do it over the last 2 days as they claimed, how are they going to do it today?
But very, very well said. You know, the question is not about, let's take a step back. The question is not about, you know, how bigger a supply can be built. The question is that what are we doing with the existing supply? How efficiently we are using it? If you look into the total number of cars which are there in Delhi, is more than the total number of cars in Bombay, Chennai and Calcutta put together. Do we really need so many cars? There are already many cars available. Can we squeeze more number of people per car? If that is the way we can you know, solve the problem of commuting from one place to another, that is the best way to do it.
Suddenly, in the last 2 days, ever since this became a confrontation between the state government and these app-based operators, we are looking at, you know, again, the focus is going back slowly to the point being made here on the panel. Let's look at carpooling. We're looking at press releases that say, okay, there are going to be free shuttles by these top players. Their number of cabs is now increasing after the whole furor over why are we being told no cabs available. And again, the question comes back to business practices. Why, if you could do it now, after this confrontation, why couldn't you do it earlier? Are these the kind of questions that we should be raising at this point, or do you once again believe that no, the fittest will survive, the markets will sort of rule out or ease out all those players who don't? The common example being made in the last few days, of course, being of Kingfisher. Look at how budget airlines are surviving. A luxury airline like Kingfisher came in, but look, it didn't really find any space. Is that a fair parallel to look at?
Yes, so I think, you know, we should encourage all innovative models. If it's carpooling, if it's shuttle buses, if it's public transport of various kinds, right, improving those, making investments in those, even having public-private partnerships of various kinds that help bring more capacity to bear, more convenient capacity to bear, you know, to even serve otherwise poorly served areas, right? That's all very important, I think, you know, and I think you need to think about it in many tiers. I mean, there are folks who want a motorcycle ride because that's all they can afford. You may even pool there on bikes. You may have, you know, very good auto service. You may have all the way up to luxury service of various kinds, right? So I think we should be open to all the innovative models. I think, you know, more choice for consumers is important. More capacity is important. I think sustainability is important. You know, anything that helps people pick a public transport or a shared infrastructure service such as Uber, Ola, you know, autos over a private car is beneficial to society. Right. I think that's the way we should be thinking about this.
Right. Mr. Lalani, that all those who are saying that have we sort of barking up the wrong tree instead of looking at all of this, should we be just saying no, carpool more, get out there more together, why are 6 cars going to the same destination from one area? Look at those kind of issues more, and are we sort of missing the wood for the trees?
No, we are welcoming and we say that's the only solution for the congestion. I mean, besides the odd and even, the best route would be to bring in more of these transport services, especially like carpool, car share, ride share, more taxis on the road. So we do absolutely agree. All we are saying, there should be a level playing field and there should be one rule for the entire industry. You cannot have different rules because some companies have been funded internationally and some companies are homegrown.
So
that's the only difference.
It comes back. I want to ask you that all those, since you sort of deal closely with auto rickshaw, that all those who sort of also raise this point, the counter argument, because we clearly have, you know, voices on the other side, but that all those who are also saying that what happens when you get overcharged by, say, an auto, for instance, or your Kali Pili taxi, then what do you do? How come then nobody makes a furor? Again, is that an argument that we should be looking at? Because autos overcharging has sort of been something that a city like Delhi has really grappled with.
So it's like if I talk about the offline model, apart from the app aggregators, offline model, it is not right. The negotiation, the friction in the system, the current friction in the system is very bad. If suppose as a customer, I and him, we go to an auto wala and we try to negotiate, but the monopoly is there.
Yes.
But at the same time, we are justifying the overcharges. We are saying that you don't have autos here. For the next 1 mile, you don't have any auto available. So you want to walk up to 1 mile? Do you want to take a rickshaw to the auto stand? Or shall we provide an auto to you? If the auto wala is coming to your doorstep, is coming to you, then there shall be some motivational fuel for him. And that fuel comes to the service.
Different rules for different folks. How do we see this now?
So very interesting. I'm happy you brought up this comparison. So the fact is, when an auto rickshaw driver, when he's alone, there is a supply demand mismatch. He's alone. 2 people want him. He says, I will take $300. That you count criminal. The newspapers, the media always writes about it, how misbehaving the auto driver.
Or even
and when these organized companies or the suit boot companies
Come
ask
on,
for
sir,
the
it's
same.
been our top headline also. Come on. You can't really say that.
So then when they are doing the same thing,
No,
and
but how
calling
is it different?
surge,
So explain to us. Explain to
it's
us.
demand and supply.
Explain.
If it's raining,
So then they will say surge is also demand and supply.
that's what they're
issue.
saying.
That's right.
But if then why is the auto rickshaw villain? When he says it's raining, I'm sorry, I'm not going to charge you by the meter. I'll charge you double. Then you complain. Even your reports in the last 2 days have shown auto rickshaw drivers are charging more.
Right.
But they are doing because demand and supply. Common sense, if there were 20 auto rickshaws, they would have gone by meter. Because they're only one standing there, they're charging double or one. So if you allow or you justify surge, then even this activity of the auto rickshaw should be justified.
No, and if I were to ask you that if surge is not okay, then neither is
Even
overcharging.
this is
neither
not
is
okay.
auto
Correct.
driver
Correct.
okay.
So
then-
exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
So that's where it stands. More larger issue, I feel, we've got too much into a debate of this surge and,
Sure.
the app, on-demand app aggregators, etc. We should look at more how we can make this system more transparent, how we can improve the skill set of the drivers. Nobody is concentrating on that. The reality is right now the run is only for money. The quality of service is not there. And we need to really invest. I would welcome all these, including the people on the panel here, to do something about improving the services and improving the quality of drivers, improving their livelihood, not by money, by making sure that they're better skilled to deal with it. And ideal situation would be like Western countries, where it's not a blue collar job, it becomes a white collar job. People choose to become taxi drivers. Unlike here, we are seeing them at the lowest category.
Right.
We need
Right.
to move to that shift.
Right.
So if these people have the money, why should they not spend the money to
Right.
make that change?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mr. Gururaj, I am sort of almost at the end of the program, but, I still have a couple of minutes and I'd like to sort of take this question to you. There are all those, who sort of in the last couple of days have looked at surge pricing and said that, India is not alone. We've seen it's run into problems in China, Egypt, the US, lots of questions being made on the surge pricing, on this pricing mechanism and all of that. Of course, the Chief Minister of Delhi even calling it a daylight robbery. Do you believe that it's inevitable? I have 2 questions here. Do you believe it's inevitable that it's going to be a history all over India? And B, significantly, do you believe that it's going to have any real impact, if any, on businesses coming into India, investment coming into India? Because that's another concern that has been raised. But at the same time, there are others saying that it's sort of, a concern that shouldn't have any space in the argument at the moment.
Yeah, I think, just in general, putting price controls in place set by the government into especially business models that are innovative and that are bringing better, higher quality service, more choice, will be a bad move for consumers and our citizens overall, right? I think if that were to take hold across the country, I think, you will find people won't want to make investments in India. And, won't want to come here with their innovative business models, and that will be a detriment to us, I think. I think the answer is not to kind of impose more policy, but to maybe have less policies and maybe free up those that have been under the burden of policy, maybe give them more degrees of freedom so they can operate with more innovative models as well, to give them the choice to go do what the others are doing as well. That might be the real answer. And also, I think a little bit, some guidance for the Olas and the Ubers as well. In these policies, they may need to structure it such that it's not viewed as offensive and onerous, right, to the consumer.
Right.
They may need to think about how to have a voluntary cap, maybe give more transparency and what the demand and supply is. If I see, for instance, there are 50 people looking for a cab and there's only 3 available in the area, I might then understand why.
Sure.
It's worth paying a little bit more to get into it, right? And those that don't get it understand that there are 47 others waiting too.
Right.
And that might be, that kind of visibility built into the app might take away some of the angst that there is.
That's a good
right?
point, isn't that,
With
Mr.
surge
Agarwal?
pricing.
Because, I'm told in sort of big bold letters what my surge is going to be, how many times more I'm going to pay. But the point being made is then also sort of come clean on everything. How many people at this moment are trying to get the cab that you are, so therefore you are being charged more. Would that kind of transparency help?
Yes, certainly it would. But subsidies must not be permitted. They are subsidizing drivers to come on board, and so they are basically hoarding and controlling the supply side. That must not be permitted.
Choice should be with the consumer. At the same time, it should be regulated to put the boundaries. It cannot be, I'll have to pay 3 times, 4 times, depending on the time of the day and the total supply and demand.
Right.
There should be a limit. Say, okay, you maximum you can go up to twice, not beyond that. So there has to be a limit.
Mr. Gururaj, quickly come in and then I need to wrap.
Yeah, so I would hope that the the Ubers and the Olas are urged to actually provide a better communication in the app that explains why the surge is in place, right? But I think to the point of competition, I'd like to see more companies come in, not less. More policy and more hurdles will just reduce the competition because it will reduce the number of people offering services.
Sure.
That would be a bad negative down spiral for us.
Coming at a time when the government is saying it's doing everything it can to make ease of doing business, but the point also being made that make it a level playing field, make sure that everyone has the same opportunities and encourage more people sort of to join the ecosystem with all their disruptive and innovative ideas. I know that this debate, of course, can carry on, very strong views on both sides, but thank you all so much for your time. Let's hope that there is some clarity on all of this. Remember, this is also a new space that we're looking at, which is why we've seen for the first time recently, in recent weeks, new rules for e-commerce and the discounts that they are being offered. Is that the kind of sort of closer look that the government's now going to be taking at different sectors? Well, watch this space for more. For the moment, from me and the entire team, goodbye. Thanks for watching.
Catch the